But what is fishing in the margin?
So technically it's fishing down the edges of the lake in the shallower water. You're normally looking for about 30 to 40 centimetres in depth, and you're normally fishing within about 75 centimetres from the bank.
Okay, and what is very important if you talk about fishing in the margin?
So very important is looking for a sort of a shelf and a flat spot to go off. If you can find this sort of flat spot, doesn't have to be very long, 10 centimetres, 20 centimetres, that is fantastic. But you do not want to be fishing on a slope because the bait goes in and goes down and away.
So it's very important to have a flat spot.
Yeah, a flattish, even if it's at an angle, but it's not too severe. This is where the fish come in, and they stay around this where the groove is, and they stay around there and they feed quite happily. So if you're lucky, like we have today, we have two clear margin lines. You can fish it like a battery, on a small battery. You have a positive on one end and a negative on the other side. So on the positive side, you can put quite a lot of food in via the big pot, and on the negative side, you can feed via the little kinder pot on the end. So what this does is that if you turn on the heavily fed line, on the big pot line, if a lot of fish come in, you can take them off gradually, right? But if not many fish come in, then you've not killed both sides.
Yeah.
So you've always got the chance. You've always upping your chances. So you've got a 50-50. Which one's going to work the best?
Okay, so you never know.
You never know, and you can't put an English expression, all your eggs in one basket, because you don't know which one's going to be better. And it's just a great little sort of tool to have in your armoury.
Okay, is it possible to fish in the margin during the whole day?
No. So most people would find that fishing in the margins is a later on thing. Normally, sort of midday onwards. What this is because it's so shallow water. When it's warmer during the day, the sun comes out, or it's just the temperature goes up in the day. The margins warm up warmer than the fishing out in the water, because it's shallower. The water gets warmer quickly, and the fish come into it because it's nice warm water.
All right, Stu. And what kind of fishing pole do you need?
So I currently use a Sensor's T-Rex 54. It's not a very expensive piece of kit. This is about 11 meters long, and it's designed specifically for carp and specimen fish, margin fish as we would call them. It's a margin pole.
Okay, and how many top sets do you need?
So I would normally, for my margin fishing, have a cupping kit.
Yeah.
And two, and maybe even 3 top kits. That's it. No more than that.
Okay, and if you talk about elastics?
So elastics are easy. So elastics, you have 2 types. It's got to be quite strong, but not too strong. And when it's set in your top kit, you set it soft.
Yeah.
If you set it too hard, then when you hook a fish or get a bite, when you strike, if it's too tight, it pulls out very quickly. Being loose, if the elastic is quite set soft, loose, but when you hook a fish, you hook it, and the fish 90% of the time swims out of the swim, leaving the remaining fish in your swim, and it's better to play a fish on soft elastics than very hard. I have 2 here today, so I have, unclip this, so I have 2 elastic settings. If we can pick this up on the camera. So this one's set very tight. I'm struggling to pull it out. Set very, very tight. Okay? And then we'll have another one here, which is, probably see, set a lot softer.
Okay. And when do you use the softer ones?
I'll always use the softer ones if I can. I've used the the heavy one today, the tighter one. If there have been a lot of big fish in there, then I just want to hook them and then just drag them out, which is not brilliant, but I just always prefer setting my elastic soft, so I hook a fish and it swims out the peg, out the swim, and it gives me more chance to play them, because if they want to swim away, it's the pole under the water, and it just softens the blows, and you just take your time.
Okay, and if we start talking about floats, what kind of floats do you use?
So floats for me have got to be, so I use these margin floats for me and Everett. As long as the float is strong, I have a couple here. My kits, I have a couple here. So I have 2 different types of margin float, 2 different size tips, as you can see. Let's come on the camera. 2 different size tips, but they're both very, very strong, very strong floats. The most important thing for me is the glass stem. The glass stem is really, really important, because it's very stable. When a fish comes in, it moves it around. I want it to sit there. Nice, big, thick tips, because you're putting large baits on. You're putting maize. You could be putting luncheon meat, even 8mm, 10mm pellets on a hook on the band. But you've got big baits, so big tips, so you can see it. Absolutely perfect. There's so many margin floats on the market. Okay. It's fantastic.
And what kind of line would you advise us?
So for me, line, I use Sensor's Classic Power, which is 0.20 in diameter.
Okay.
And if I remember, because have a look, it's 3.6 kilos.
Okay, and it's 0.20. Is
0.20
the
line.
Minimum, or?
It's for me, for UK fishing, that's very good. I know that over here that I've used in Holland and across other parts, I've used line up to 0.25, which is very, very strong, but it's very hard to break as well.
Yeah, but most of the time you use
0.20, yeah.
Well, do we have a special tip for us concerning the line?
There's a little secret. Shh, don't tell everybody. When you make your rigs up at home and you have your line, when you take it off with a spool, it's all wiggly woggly. If you get these 2 fingers and just pull down the line once, twice, 3 times,
and then it's straight.
Nice and straight.
You can see it.
And it's nice and soft as well. So this is what it looks like before. Oh, wiggly wiggly. And again, 1, 2, 3. But don't tell everybody.
Can you tell me something about how the rig is set up?
Yeah, no problems at all. So I've got a 0.20 line. I've got it connected to a connector, Dacron connector for me. And then I've got a length of line. It's probably 30, 40 centimetres long.
Yes.
I've got a loop at the top, which is connected to my connector. Then I've got 3 number 8 stots back shots, which is really important because I hold the line directly above the float.
Okay.
I don't want any movement.
So that's the reason why you use these shots?
Yes.
Okay.
And then on the float, I have 3 pieces of silicone. I have 2 short pieces and a long piece, which we call the kicker. So it always kicks the line away. If it was too short, then you would get the line would tangle around. Okay. 0.20 straight through. I personally don't use hook links. I'll explain why in a moment. As I've got a small bulk of number 8 and a size 12 hook. These are the hooks that I use.
These are the hooks you use.
Yeah, they're very, very, very strong. In fact, they're too strong sometimes, they hurt. I've got, on my hook, I've whipped it on, I've got about 20 turns on that. So the reason I have the bulk, and it's holes like this, is when a carp comes into your swim and they're feeding, and they hit the line, it bounces straight back. So it bounces back. If I was to have very little weights down, if I only had 1 weight down, when the fish comes in and hits it, it goes all over the place. And what happens then is that you get, we call it foul hooking. The fish hooks themselves, and it's just not nice. And the reason I don't use hook links is, this is my terminology is if I was to have a hook link, it's like holding hands. You have two joins, and it pulls, it breaks. So no hook link is literally no hook link, and you can't pass.
It's much stronger.
Yeah, it's no stronger. There's no weak spots. I don't want a weak spot when I'm catching carp, barbels, sturgeon, anything really, anything big. I don't want any weak spots. I don't want any chances of the line breaking on that weak spot.
Let's talk about ground bait, Stu. What kind of ground bait do you need?
So I'm a really big fan of green ground baits. Green, smelly ground baits as well. So my main mix is the Power Pellet Green. As you can see, it's an absolutely lovely colour. But within this, I make it really smelly, and I mean it is really smelly. Guys, do you want to have a smell? It's really bad.
Garlic.
Garlic. But this is really strange. Is that, open the bag up. And listen to this reaction, people. Have a smell of that. Whoa. It's really strong. But this ground bait has quite a lot, give me a second, of particles in it. And when these particles are wet, they stick to the bottom. They stick to the bottom. So it gives the carp something to munch on.
Okay.
And what I do is the mix. And I mix this. Unfortunately, this is dried out a bit. But I mix it so it's. Spare me just 2 seconds. I'm just going to just do something and show you folks. So I'm going to get. It's dried out. The mix is dried out. So I've got my cup. I'm going to put 2 cupfuls of water in. So it's like that, and then we're literally going to stir it around. That's really smelly. Can you smell that? When you put a little bit in this one, and I want the ground bait to be quite damp, and we call it in English claggy, which is like clayey. And what it is it's like this. Don't make a ball. You put it in loose in your pot. And what happens is, when you make a pot up. So I'm going to literally put the pot in the ground bait. I'm going to sort of put the pot in the ground bait. I'm going to make a little sandcastle. When you were a child, you made sandcastles. When you go out and you ship it out, and it literally that sits on the bottom like that. It's like an old sandcastle. You just go to the beach.
Okay.
And
so this is the best way to prepare your ground bait.
Yeah, you don't want, if it's too dry. When the fish comes in and hits the ground bait, it all goes cloudy everywhere.
Yeah.
If the ground bait is set quite wet in shallow water, it sticks to the bottom.
Okay.
And keeps the fish searching around the area. If it was dry, it would just all just disappear. It would just go everywhere.
It's ready.
So
let's put the ground bait to the test.
Right.
Show me what it looks like.
Let's make a sandcastle. So. 1 scoop in, there's a
sandcastle.
Hand on top. Going to go in to make a sandcastle. Ready?
Yes.
Here we go.
Ready.
On the water.
That's very nice. You can see the sandcastle.
If I was to make it a bit harder, I'll put a bigger one in. I'll put it in. I push quite hard down on it. Hard down on it, so it's a bit firmer, and I'm just going to do is going to put it a little bit further up here. So on that stone, there's a big stone there.
Yep. Let's see what happens. Well, if you're a carp, you must see these ground bait places.
Oh yeah,
you can't miss it.
Can't miss it. It's lovely, and as you can see, it's currently the first. It's just settled on the bottom. The one on the stone, we've just put in the second one. It's a nice pile on the stone.
Okay, if you start fishing, how many of these bowls are you bringing?
So I would normally start on my positive line, probably with like 5 of these.
Okay.
I want to put a nice area that the carp can come in and visit. Plus the fact, with it being quite shallow, not very deep, that you can actually sometimes see the carp the swirls and the tail patterns from them, so you know they're there. And when they come in and they go over the ground bait, they disturb it and they make a green cloud. And I describe it as they lose themselves in the cloud, so they can't see their friends disappearing on the hook. They're too busy searching around for a piece of maize or some pellets to eat.
Well, let's talk about hook bait.
Yes, sir.
What kind of hook bait do you use?
So for me, it's maize. 90% of my time it's the maize. I'll just show you which one it is. Just going to lean back. So I use maize. You can buy it, Sensors version. You can buy it in a tin. Choice is totally yours.
Okay, there are different kind of.
Yeah, there's different kinds and there's different colours as well. Sometimes you get a pale corn or a very dark yellow. I just prefer the paler corn.
Okay, can you show us how you put it on the?
Yeah, of course I can. There's two ways I do it. And the first way is I have the maize. I put the hook in the top, and I turn it with my finger, and it comes out the side.
Okay.
So I have lots of hook points, and if I want to use double maize on this, same way, I can go into the bottom of it, and then turn it and then go up.
And that's the best way.
So that's the double maize. Yeah, I like that way. So I've still got lots of hook points showing to hook the fish.
Okay, you always use maize?
Yeah, it's maize, maggots, or worms.
Okay, and if you put maggots on your hook?
Yes, the very same. Oh, I'm going to jump here. So the second way of doing maize is you go to the side of the maize and go sideways and in that. So
okay.
It might sound silly, but sometimes you hook it one way, hook it another way. It just makes a difference the way it falls through the water.
Okay.
Maggots, live ones or dead ones. I think we've got a bit of both in here. So I've got a dead one, 1, 2, and then what I tend to do is I've got 2 normals for the bottoms and then through the tops. So the top is the thin bit, the large bit at the bottom is the large bit at the end is, we call it the bottom. So I've got a little bunch of maggots on like so.
Okay.
It's very attractive. Problem on some fisheries, there's lots of little fish, whitefish, perch that will take them, but if the fishery has lots of carp in it, couldn't resist it, eh? Big bunch of maggots.
Okay, and do you always use only the white maggots or also red maggots?
So in Holland it's white maggots only.
Yeah.
In UK it's reds mainly in the UK.
If you start fishing, what do?
So I put my feed in on both the lines. So I have my positive and my negative. I always start on the negative line. And the reason I start on the negative line is that I feel that I can build this up.
Yeah.
My positive line I leave, and you turn your head, or you hear a noise, you hear a slurpy noise, or you hear a splash. You know that could be fish on that line.
Well, just for the viewers, what is the negative line?
So negative line is feeding via the kinder pot, the little pot on the end.
I understand.
So I'm literally feeding probably
a few things.
I'm feeding either a few pellets,
and that's it.
A few maggots, or literally that could be a negative line.
Okay.
That could be a negative line.
Yeah, and the positive line, that is much more ground bait.
Positive line is literally lots more ground bait.
Okay.
Pellets, not the maggots, not the maize.
Okay. And you start fishing on the negative line.
Yeah.
And you keep a close watch on the positive line.
You always keep an eye out and ear out what's going on.
Okay. And as soon as you see any movement or you see any fish.
No, I leave it for a while.
Okay.
I let them build confidence.
Yeah.
If you was to take one out of there very quickly, all the rest of them will be very not sure. But if you leave them and let them get confident and just keep giving them some more and more food.
Yes, you have to be patient.
You have to be
even though you see a lot of fish.
Yeah, you have to be patient. If you go in and you scare them off, they've gone.
Okay.
It could take an hour for them to come back, which means that if you're fishing a competition, the hour could be over, your match could be over.
Okay, and what is the moment that you switch from your negative side to the positive side?
When I think that there's enough fish there, they've had enough confidence, and they've gone a little bit silly. They're really hungry.
So you wait for 1 or 2 hours?
Yeah, you wait an hour roughly. An hour is quite a good rule.
Okay, and in the meantime you stay
on the
fishing at the negative
side. Just building up, keep trying to sort of nick a few fish. And what you're trying to do is you want that positive line to really kick in so you can go on it quite quick, but you just doing it. But the other thing is, if you find your positive line really kicks in quickly, the negative line, you can then turn that into a positive line as well.
Yeah, okay.
So you can have 2 positives on the go.
Yeah.
It's a big gamble, but gambles always sometimes pay off.
Yeah, I know that sometimes you have some fishing match you attend where you need to take the gamble.
You have to. Sometimes you have to.
You have to take the risk.
You have to attack. You go in attack mode.
Okay, and if you talk about presenting your hook bait,
yes,
is it just with the hook, just touching the bottom?
No. For me personally, and this is a personal thing, I like when I plumb up the depth, I want that. I want the whole float, the whole length of the float out.
Okay.
And the reason for that is I want it to be the bait.
You want it 10 centimeters on the ground.
For a bit of maize, excuse me, so I can. So anyway, so I've got a bit of maize on. I might do it on my arm. So I want the joke. I want the curve.
Yeah, okay.
I always want the curve. The curve. If it's hanging like this, it doesn't look very natural on the bottom. But if it's laying on the bottom,
but this is very important.
It's very natural.
Looks very important. Okay.
So if your viewers have seen this, the Jamie Hughes thing, then they like the curve.
My last question is always: do you have any tips for us?
Do I want to give these secrets away? Yeah, why not? So the first one is a flat bedded plummet. These are the sensitive ones, they're about 40 grams. And the reason for this is you spread, when you plumb up the depth, you can feel all the stones and the grooves, and it helps you find the nice flat spot. My biggest tip to you is take your time plumbing the depth, please. It's the most important thing. With this you can feel all the stones and the flat spots and the little bits of soft.
Okay, and what exactly are you looking for, a flat spot?
I'm looking for literally something probably the same as the size of my hand.
A nice flat spot.
I don't want something sort of like this. I want it to be a nice flat spot.
Okay.
That I can put my bait over and the fish feels safe.
Okay, that's great. Do you have any other tips for us? Yeah,
I have one. So, it's the old favourite, hair conditioner and water. So it's 10% hair conditioner, rest is water. It's really cheap. And what we do with this is we put it in our pole, an elastic, and we put it down, big squirt. It's really cheap hair conditioner. You don't really need it, do you, mate?
No, thank you.
That's fine. I just throw that one in. I'm running out as well.
Nice.
So it comes out, and what it does, it coats the elastic in a very thin silicone coating.
Okay.
And it makes the elastic run nicely and smoothly. And when it's hot, the sun comes out. People don't believe it, but the elastic actually dries out inside the pole because the pole gets warm and it dries out. By making it nice and soft, so when you look, strike the fish nice and runs nicely.
That's a very important tip.
Last one.
Last but not least.
So lids, any sort of lid. Lids from shampoo bottles, deodorants, small lids. Right. What I do is I make a hole in it. This is quite a large tip on this one, and literally what I do is I put it through there, put my connector through, like so, and then you slide it on. I've got a pot.
And that's it.
Free
pot.
Yeah, put my bait. It's not always free. If you don't tell the wife, it's not free, but if you tell the wife, it's okay. Then you put your bait in it. I'm just going to grab some bait, maybe to I'll show you what I mean.
Let's take a look what happens.
So I've got some maize. I have a bit of maize, literally look, in the pot. There's your free pot. And you go out, you ship it out, you just turn it over, and there's your bait. It's free.
One thing is for sure, if you start fishing in the margin and using the tips of Stu Redman, you can't miss any fish anymore, I think. It's time for me to catch some fish myself. I hope you enjoyed my interview, and we will certainly see each other in the future somewhere on the banks. You never know.